Hello and welcome to episode 113 of the Talking Wednesday podcast. James and Jack this week for you. Apologies we missed a week. I had some crazy personal family emergency stuff going on. Hopefully all good now, but basically we didn't really know what to do with the podcast last week because it would involve editing and all of that, so we just thought let's skip it, move across, see where Wednesday are at this week and then join. But yes, hello Jack, how has your week been, mate?
It's been very, very good. I've been helping out with my local cricket club because they just decided that they didn't want to do any ground maintenance when they should have done in December, January, that sort of time. So I was using a garden rake, a literal wire garden rake, to go around an entire massive cricket outfield, getting rid of all the chopped grass. And I've even got a wound for my troubles. There you go. There's a little burn on my thumb from... Oh, it was frustrating, but hard work. It all paid off, you know. It's all been done, thankfully. But yeah, that's been fun. And that's
do you like cricket, really. Jack?
I could quote the 10cc song from ages ago for all of you niche viewers and listeners that know that song. I don't like cricket. That one. I'm sorry. All right, I'm sorry for being cringe. But yes, I like playing.
You need that on a t-shirt. That needs to be your next line of merch. I'm sorry for being cringe. I'm sorry if something really I said's going to get me cancelled any moment.
Oh,
it's pretty much your whole
probably.
It's genuinely one of them things when we've got you on a live stream. Me and Jake are like, please.
Sweating.
Please.
Gripping the edge of your chair. Oh, yes.
Please.
Yes.
Please don't burn everything that we have just
everything to the ground.
And this community. Don't burn it all with one of your comments.
Yes.
There we go. That's the risk you bring to bring young, fresh talent in that looks 47. No, I'm joking. You don't look 40. You don't.
Whoa. Okay, I've had a haircut. Thank you. I look the fresh age of 32 now. Actually, so yes. But how are you, Dex? How's your week been, other than the personal things?
It's been pretty much all of that, but it was a case of I managed to get back to some sort of normal sort of routine towards the end of it. I caught the Wednesday game because I was sort of like, there was nothing I could do that evening, so I was sort of just watching it on my phone, and then I obviously jumped into your call as you guys were streaming. And then from that, I sort of just got back into work and did that sort of thing. And now we are hopefully going to have a relatively normal week this week because we've actually got a proper schedule for the podcast and everything now. It should mean things are balanced. I don't know what's going to happen next week because basically it's bank holiday and I'm doing things on the bank holiday and I don't know who's doing what. It might be a Jack and Jake episode. It might be a fact that it's obviously the last week of the season. So it might be a case if we do a live one where we all just come on and see how we're feeling heading into that last fixture. But basically, we'll see what happens with that one, but there will be something next week. If it's a bit delayed, that will be why, though, because we are wondering if we need to do a special or something like that. But in terms of tomorrow, actually, the day this podcast goes out, we might, and might is the prerogative, because we might be doing this, we're not sure, doing sort of a big sort of stream of the other two fixtures that don't involve Sheffield Wednesday, but are very relevant to Sheffield Wednesday in terms of the Ipswich and the Plymouth game. It's basically going to be a Dexterity Watch / Talking Wednesday special because it's not just going to be me, it's going to be Jake, and I assume Jack will probably want to get involved.
If you want me, yes, of course.
Well, we've got to keep somebody on the Twitter. So, but it's a case of what we might do is we might have you in on audio while you're doing the Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
And then do. We've got a plan for it. We will talk you through that later. Yes. I just realised I've not mentioned any of that to you, but who cares? Please follow us on all of the socials at Talking Wed on Twitter. Still building the Twitter, and thank you for following it. It's nice to have new followers joining all the time. Jack's doing basically I said, hey, Jack, can you do halftime review? Because he's our resident armchair, basically. That's what we said. That's Jack, right? I think every podcast needs a resident armchair.
The resident armchair.
Because it's a difficult thing when you've got hosts going to games, you've got hosts doing other things, that you've got somebody who is consistently pretty much an armchair that will go once in a blue moon nowadays. And the fact that Jack's just fully happy to admit that means it makes life a lot easier. Because he still watches the games, and he still analyses the games.
I do still know what's going on. It's not like I'm an armchair that's just like, oh yeah, it's top showing of the lads this week, wasn't it? Like that. Yeah. Is it the IT crowd? Where is that quote from? That's dreadful performance. What's that quote? But I'm not one of those casuals that sort of says it to look good in a social situation.
The thing is, you're not by armchair. It basically means that we actually have you accessible during the matches, and you are up to date. You're actually on the pulse with it, but you can be there for the people who. I don't think there's nothing wrong with being an armchair when you reach a certain stage of being a fan. Fellow armchairs, fellow people who can't get to matches, fellow people abroad, that sort of thing.
Yes.
No offense meant, because I must say, people who watch the podcast. I know some people do get offended sometimes by taking things I say in the wrong way when I say something off the cuff.
Yes. Yep.
If you know that I am a certain way about something, or that you genuinely know you've watched a lot of podcasts, you'll know I don't mean any offence by something. And if you've inferred offence, I would hope that you would give me the opportunity to be like, I wasn't actually trying to be critical of you there. Do you know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless you did mean it. And when you mean it, you very much mean it.
Exactly. So, walking contradiction there.
But if you do mean it, you will also say you very much mean it. You won't, hide away from...
Yeah, but I also don't usually deal in generalizations. That's what I will say. And if I'm sort of talking about something that's quite broad, it doesn't mean I'm targeting something specific. It doesn't mean I'm attacking someone specifically. Do you know what I mean? I'm talking about our subsection or something like that. But anyway, I was talking about something else. The Discord is available for members. I have also made the Talking Wednesday Extra episode with me and Jack playing FIFA and Jack going absolutely insane available to all members, so not just the $4.99 tier and above. So if you go on YouTube and you are a member, I know a lot of people won't think that's actually accessible for them now, but if you are a normal member of the channel at the entry tier, you can join in and watch that video of Jack raging. There is a language warning on it because it's Jack and FIFA, but it's quite funny. It was a good episode. There will be a Talking Wednesday Extra in the coming week or so as well for April's episode. We are just finalising the details on that one. Please leave us a nice audio review on Podchaser, Spotify, all those sort of places, Apple Podcasts. That really helps us with the podcast algorithm and getting it out to more ears. So if you don't want to support us financially and you think I really like that, I'd like to support in another way, leaving a review on those services is actually massive for us. So please do that. Also, do you like our Talking Wednesday owl? I like our Talking Wednesday owl. Well, that owl was designed by Goose Creative. If you'd like some graphic design work done, you can find Goose Creative at goosecreativedesign.com or on Instagram at goosecreative_design, where you'll find over 25 years of graphic design experience. Lee, how personalised was that read for you, mate, that I actually stuttered twice in it, but we'll keep it in. And also, he's also done your stuff, hasn't he?
He's also done my stuff. He's done my little logo just here. So he's a good one, is Lee. He's great.
Yes.
He's great. And he's got a lot of insightful Wednesday opinions, so feel free to talk Wednesday with him.
Yes.
He's got a lot of insight on that as well. But
speaking
honestly,
of Talking Wednesday, obviously.
Obviously.
Bristol Rovers versus Sheffield Wednesday.
Oh.
Jack, you were co-streaming this one
yes.
with Jake. We both obviously watched along, but I want you to talk me through this one, please.
Well, it was very end to end and very, very scrappy. It was actually kind of nice to see Wednesday try a different style of play, because I know obviously they've adopted sort of a almost just hoof it up Route 1 approach, and it was actually kind of nice to see us go back to playing proper football again. As you can tell, I'm not a hoofball fan. I detest it, but sometimes it's the only way to win in this league. But we went to more of a counter-attacking kind of approach, and I think both teams did that actually. So it was just very end-to-end all the time. But costly errors by a few of our defenders led to a Bristol Rovers goal, but we kept managing to pull it back, and it was. I wouldn't say it was a very pretty game to watch. I think the neutrals
we got battered on possession. We got battered on possession. It's one of those fixtures. It's very different to the rest of the season because I'll just read you some of the stats. Okay, it was 8 shots for Bristol Rovers to Wednesday's 9. They had 4 on target. We had 3. We scored with 2 of our shots on target here. They had 66% possession. Now, Wednesday were bossing possession for a lot of the season. That's the difference and change we've seen in some games recently. We've been a bit lost on the ball, and that probably is that buyer's absence with everything. Losing quality plays, it's always going to be there. They passed the ball around a lot more. They had 574 passes to our 287. And they were a lot more accurate. We were giving the ball away a little bit.
We were under-hitting passes, over-hitting them. It's like, it honestly seemed like the team had never played together before, or there was some real disconnect. And it was so horrendously frustrating to just keep seeing all of these mistakes all the time. It was like the nerves were frayed. And Bristol Rovers looked so up for this, considering they're a mid-table side, right? It was so mental that you'd think that we were the mid-table team and they were the team trying to chase like either automatics or wanting to get into the playoffs. It was insane. I could go on forever, but like I'm saving this for after the other fixture that we're going to talk about.
Well, Bannon scored a great goal in that one, obviously.
Bannon's goal was insane. And
then Famio with the other one.
How do
you say it?
Literally,
say it?
I say it as Famawo, but a lot of people say Famawo, and
Famawo.
You know,
I used to say Famiao,
like,
which is completely wrong.
You used to say Famiao like he's Portuguese or something. But honestly, his goal was just kind of like a really scrappy, just like, you know, the ball was pinging around loads in the box. Gregory got yanked to the floor, and it almost seemed like Famawo just said, right, F it, whack. And then just leathered it as hard as he could, and it went in the roof of the net, and we scored, and it was glorious. But yeah,
well, we needed to start putting fixtures in. We need to start putting the hard graft in with the fixtures, and players like Patterson coming back has been massive for us, really. And that was case in point in the Exeter game. So let's talk through Exeter, because this is a game that they probably didn't want to win, given that they're rivals of Plymouth, and it didn't look like that was going to be in the script early in the game, did it, Jack?
No, it was... Honestly, this game was dreadful. The first... I know it's so strange to say, given that we won, right? And it's a crucial 3 points, because it puts us very close to Plymouth and Ipswich above us again. It keeps us in the hopeful line that we might still get the automatics or whatever. But this whole team were playing like they were just resigned to the playoffs. They were totally mentally not there. And it was so... if you were keeping up with the matchday tweets, you could see how much in strife I was and how much I'd censored my words in the tweets each time I was tweeting about it.
So what was making you the angriest when you were sort of watching along, tweeting along?
It was the lack of cohesion. It was that all the players were just mentally... It was like they were mentally checked out. It's like they didn't care about still getting the automatics. They just thought, oh, playoffs it is then. Fair enough. Whatever. Barry Bannon was going apoplectic at all the players around him. He was... You know those days where like we'd criticize him because he was shouting at players too much and not being a captain? He was back to that again. He was screaming at people. Will Volks and Marvin Johnson were having a massive barmy with one another. Will Volks was kicking off at everybody around him. It was like so many of those players in that first half just didn't care. They didn't remotely give a damn that they were there to get the 3 points.
What was annoying for me was
passion,
the fact that
nothing.
That we were getting done defensively so easily from wide crosses. So players for Exeter running out wide, and then in the box there was no sort of urgency in defence to actually mark your man, and that's how they got their goal. Because
Flint and Iorfa were just stood there being.
So as I was just saying there, we because Jack's computer just decided to die.
Yeah, it just decided to just soil itself, basically. Don't know what's going on.
He never used to run a backup either. If he hadn't have done that today, because I started saying run a backup, I'd have been very cross. But we worked. It worked. Hopefully. We say that. I've not had the files to me yet. This podcast might be gone into the ether. But I was saying that Exeter nearly got a second from the same way that they got the first, which is like we're not learning from this.
No.
You know, we're leaving that
same
space.
Mistakes all the time.
And Dawson literally had a save that if he'd not saved that, it's 2-2.
Yeah.
I know that's so Michael Owen, right? That level of commentary there. But
it's great insight there, Dex.
Yeah, thank you. But because that's what goalkeepers are there to do. But he came out right, and he shouldn't be put in that position because half of the time they will round the keeper there. But luckily, it ended up straight at him. That's what I'm saying. It's just so frustrating to think that we could easily drop points like that. And Exeter City are obviously not the sort of I think great club, all of that. I'm not disparaging. You've got to be careful with football fan bases.
I think what you're trying to say, Dex, before you dig yourself a big hole,
they're not the level of the playoff teams we're going to be playing.
Yes.
That's what I was going to say, basically. I think that's fair to say.
They also had 7 players out injured. 7 of their preferred first 11 were out injured, and they had a right back playing up as the striker. So I guess what you're saying is you would have expected a way more switched on, better performance.
Yes.
But yeah.
They had 7 shots on target, 7 shots, and 3 of them were on target. We had 17 shots, 4 of them were on target. 4 from 17. It's our conversion rate this season. It's woeful. What is nice is Patterson and Gregory on the score sheet. I mean, I still don't really know how Gregory scored with that header. Like, I think he just used. I think he sort of directed and added a little bit more power, with the spin of the ball, sort of thing.
I would say
it was so far out.
A way better goalkeeper would have saved that. That was actually quite it was quite an easy save for a lot of other keepers. I think so. It was not to disrespect the goalkeeper in their net, but if I'm not mistaken, it's a former Rotherham goalkeeper, so of course that deserves a bit of shade because it's Rotherham. Anyway, it's not an episode without me insulting somebody, is it? Come on now.
No.
It's a staple of this whole thing.
It's what you do.
And I will say as well, just to balance it out, I will criticise Dawson for the Exeter goal because when you shoot somebody on a Fallout game and they ragdoll and they just go and ragdoll.
Yes.
For the purposes of the audio listeners, I just did a demonstration of a ragdoll, but. He did that.
It's beautiful.
It went down to his right, and he just ragdolled. There was no dive, no saving attempt. He just went into a bloody ragdoll. What was he doing? Not to mention the fact that Flint and why is his head got Iorfa? Flint and Iorfa were just being pedestrian. They were just going, oh, and watching it go over their heads. Nothing. No movement at all. And it just, it was frustrating. It was like that the entire game. But then, honestly, the two of those have been doing this for the last few weeks, and that's how a lot of goals have been scored, is just direct ball round
that's the
or
issue.
Over them. And
fundamentals of football. Score goals, right? Stop goals going in your net.
Yes.
The two things we've been quite woeful at is our strikers converting. Our conversion rate's been woeful. Not doing that. And our defenders keeping the ball out of our net.
Yep.
So
thanks, Michael Owen. Thanks for that insight, Michael Owen.
Yep. I'll be very specific. I'm just carrying on with the theme. But it's true.
What's been frustrating me
has been the thing.
Yeah. Is Michael Smith, right?
The fundamentals.
He's got the first touch of a sodding cinder block. He tries to bring it under control with his foot, and it goes into Rowe's head. And it's so frustrating to watch. I mean, I hate to bring up past players, right? But big Antti Nuiu, bless him, love him, he would have had that straight at his feet under control. But then we've got to remember that these aren't the days of the championship anymore. This is where we're at right now. And we've just got to deal with these little inconveniences. But it's just been...
I think I will say, playing devil's advocate on the Smith thing.
Yes, of course.
We don't play to his strengths.
No, we don't.
Okay? We don't play to his strengths. We're expecting him to get the ball at his feet and make it happen. Now, if you look at a lot of his past goals for Rotherham, it was a case of crosses into the box.
Yeah.
We don't play that very often.
But I will counter-argue with that one.
Not from the wings, anyway. From the middle.
Yeah. Quite a lot of games, we have been putting the crosses in, and he has been heading it, but he's been heading it wide, which he did an awful lot against Exeter. He did it a lot against Forest Green. He did it a lot against Bristol Rovers, even.
No,
he was doing the same thing, and he just kept heading it wide all the time.
He's not had a great couple of games.
Lincoln, another one. Yeah.
But I just think we are, in terms of, we've got too many. Patterson back's a massive thing. I think that's probably the reason we're actually turning it, because he's coming in and doing the work that needs doing. That you'd like to think Gregory and Smith could have stepped up and done, but it's not really. I don't really think it suits their game, particularly where Patterson comes in and he does the dirty work.
Yeah.
And it's meant that we've been getting victories when we've not necessarily been playing well, because I think Patterson was influential in the fact that we won that game against Exeter. Obviously, he got the goal, he got the winning goal, but it's just his work around off the ball. He was dropping
down into midfield and playing like these phenomenal through balls out to the wings, and then running back up to the striker position again, and all this sort of thing. And Adeniran as well. The last few games, he's really done what Darren Moore said and taken the bull by the horns with this. And actually, I honestly think he dragged us in. Him, Patterson and Gregory dragged us into those 3 points, kicking and screaming. The rest of the team were just not having that win for some bizarre reason, and the three of those dragged us into having those 3 points, kicking and screaming against Exeter. And
I'm happy the way Adeniran's coming along, because he showed such promise at the start of his Wednesday career, and then obviously injuries are coming in. The fact that he is turning up at the business end of the season, that is massive, right? Because you're seeing quite a few players not specifically stepping up around this time when we've had our dip in form. To be able to be a player that steps up at this time, especially because he's 23, 24, it's good signs from a player like that, and that's the kind of thing you think of going into next season.
Exactly.
Possession was much more 50-50 here. It was 52-48. It was not a great game, but Wednesday did what they needed to do. Unfortunately, everything around us is going wrong. All the other teams that we don't need to win are winning. They're finding a way. They're not falling off. Plymouth aren't doing their usual fall off at the end of the season. And Ipswich are looking more and more likely just to keep doing it. They've got a big fixture in the week, but we will see what happens with them. We just basically need to start playing better, otherwise we are not going to do well in the playoffs. I know, again, I'm saying the fundamentals here, Jack, just so people don't say just because it's going to be Michael Owen sort of level. But what I'm so frustrated about is we're just not doing the basics right.
Yeah.
And that is what is costing us. The one, and you can say we have got these injuries. It's one of those questions, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more later. We blame a lot of people on social media. We'll blame Darren Moore for our form dipping. So but I don't see anyone crediting him for these last couple of wins, the fact that we're not playing well, but we're scrapping victories again. Do you know what I mean? There's a different side to it. So what is the manager responsible for? I think there might be a question for that later on. What were you going to say?
I mean, well, it's just more an Adeniran, really. When Patterson scored that winning goal, he did the Semedo, this famous Semedo thing where he drops to his knees and points up at the sky, and he's showing all of his passion. He did that when Patterson scored that goal. So if you can clearly see from that he's one there's nobody more committed than he is.
Do you know what I like?
Us getting up
with the team spirit. There's a couple of players that didn't really fit into the squad for a lot of the season. I think Jaden Brown's another one of these. Jaden Brown, if you remember that Papa John's trophy game where we got spanked, was that this season or last season? I forget the Pizza Cup.
Yeah. It's the Pizza Cup, innit?
But it was just a case of he was playing in the Pizza Cup games and he wasn't necessarily playing very well. And we all sort of wrote him off a little bit. And he's just coming through and he's playing really, really well at the minute.
Yeah.
It's these players, him, Adeniran, they're stepping up at the time that he's needed for.
Exactly. There's a few that aren't, but they are.
Let's talk about how League One is shaping up in general because...
I don't like it. I don't like it, James.
It's not great.
It's not great.
So these are the Saturday results. We won't go as far back to the midweek, but Charlton 2, Morecambe 3. Barnsley 2, Oxford 0. So Barnsley keeping a win streak going, which is not great if you end up against them in the playoffs. Fleetwood 1, MK Dons 0. Peterborough 0, Ipswich 3. Now that's a big fixture because Peterborough are playoff bound, right?
Yes. So
that just shows how good Ipswich are at the minute because Peterborough need to keep piling on the pressure and Ipswich beat them 3-0 away from home. That's big. Plymouth 3, Cambridge 1. Both teams scoring 3 goals. Derby 1, Burton 0, which is not great against. Plymouth played Burton and they lost to Derby and Plymouth we lost to Burton. Plymouth, please. Just hiccup. Port Vale 2, Bristol Rovers 0, and Plymouth played Bristol Rovers as well.
Yeah.
Port Vale beat them. Wickham 0, Lincoln 2, Bolton 1, Shrewsbury 0, Cheltenham 3, Forest Green 1. Forest Green are already relegated, by the way. That's happened since we last podcasted. Portsmouth 1, Accrington Stanley 0, and Wednesday 2, Exeter 1. It leaves the table looking like this. Plymouth Argyle, 43 played. They are top of the table, 92 points. Ipswich Town, 43 played, 91 points.
Oh my.
Wednesday, 44 played, 90 points.
So this is going to be a very big Tuesday
played,
night.
85. Yeah, it's a massive Tuesday night. If they both win their games in hand, if they both win on Tuesday night, it's not mathematically over, but it feels like it's over.
Yeah. I don't like it. I really don't like it. This is either going to be... The crunch time is Tuesday night.
If they both win... Ipswich Town will be on playoffs, 94 points. Yes, because Ipswich Town will be on 94 points.
Yep.
Plymouth will be on 95 points. We'll be on 90 points.
Yep.
Which means Plymouth would have to lose both of their last games, and Ipswich would have to lose one, and they could finish on 94 if we won both. So the pressure would still be on Ipswich slightly. No, it wouldn't. Right, no, I've just done maths wrong. I'm new on the Twitter. Your maths is awful on the Twitter, by the way.
Thanks. I got my C at GCSE and I've left it behind
actually
as much as I possibly can.
And if there's ever a mathematical error on the score or anything, it's Jack.
It's me
on the Twitter. Because if they win any of the, oh god, that's awful. Right, if they don't draw. If they both win on Tuesday night, it's over. Because Ipswich will be on 94 and they've got 2 games to play. We will need 96 to even go beyond that.
Yep.
And their goal difference is superior.
Yep.
So Tuesday is massive.
Tuesday is the crunch time.
Massive.
Yep.
We're relying on Barnsley.
Yes, we are. We're relying on the Dingles. How about that?
And Bristol Rovers to turn over Plymouth.
And Jake was saying to me as well, by the way, he was saying to me the other day, oh, well, it's weird because we've got to hope that Barnsley win, but we also can't because Barnsley might go above us now and we'll be in 4th. When there's 2 matches that they have to play to do that, and we have to lose.
Yeah.
So
if we keep going, no, but I'll be honest, we're looking up.
Yes.
No matter what happens in the playoffs, we're not looking for favourable draws in the playoffs at the minute. No. We are looking up. We've still got a chance of automatic promotion. It's becoming slimmer by the week.
And slimmer, yes. But
we don't look down. We shouldn't be looking down at this stage. We're looking at everybody who plays those. Wear your Barnsley shirts on Tuesday night, guys.
Yeah.
Okay?
Ring all your bells because they go dingle. So we've got to,
you really stretched for that one, didn't you?
We've got to be dingles for Tuesday, and
you really stretched
I've
for that one.
Here. I've had
you
that
managed
up
to
here
stress it for the offence.
Yes.
Yep. Maybe I don't put you on my Twitter on Tuesday. You're awful in those situations.
Yeah, I am.
But yes, it's. I didn't read this far down, really. Well, I did, but it's more relevant to us now. The playoffs are currently consisting of Wednesday, Barnsley, Bolton, Derby.
But it's
Peterborough
Derby and
could push
Peterborough
into
are
it.
like constantly battling it out for that 6th spot. So that's going to be quite interesting come the end of the season. Who actually does end up in that?
Do you know
final
what
spot.
would be insane? Because there is a reality where the last day goes, Derby need us to beat us for us to go in the playoffs, and we need to beat Derby
them
to go up.
Automatically. Yep. Mr. Around the Grounds, Lee, he was saying that on the EFL show a couple of weeks ago, and it's either all going to go down to the wire and be a last day thing that's going to be absolutely mental, and I can see there being a pitch invasion and everything if that's the scenario and we win or whatever against Derby, but it's either going to be that or we'll just resign to the playoffs if things don't go
Pay
our
attention
way.
to Tuesday night, because
So
Tuesday night
is
huge.
the crucial time. Yes. Oh,
Right,
boy.
going into the news, there's not a lot of news, obviously. At this time, it's kind of crunch season. What is in the news is the League One team of the season's out. They've had the EFL Awards. We've got 2 players in there, but I will read you all of the players. So, Cooper for Plymouth in net. I think that's probably fair. Good keeper.
Oh, yeah.
I would like us to sign him. At right back, they've got Mumba for Plymouth. Centre back is Ipswich's Davis and Barnsley's Anderson. Left back, they've got Santos for Bolton. I've heard he doesn't play that position, actually, and they've just kind of wedged him there.
Interesting.
So the midfield is a midfield 2 of Bannon for us. So Bannon makes team of the season, and Hurahan for Derby County. Fair. Bannon's the best player in this league. I don't care what anyone says.
I would say that's an interesting one with Hurahan, though, because I just think that's because he played in the Premier League about a year or 2 ago. I simply think that it's because of
Derby
his
fans
name.
are going to come for you here.
Yeah. Well, I don't care. So I just think that Hurahan's in there because it's Hurahan and not because he's sort of like proved himself in the League One this year. Because I've got a few Derby fans that have said he's not really lived up to the hype for a lot of this season. So I think that's an interesting one that he's been slotted in there. Because there's a lot of Derby fans that I know that have said quite the opposite, that he shouldn't have been in this league of the team of the season. And it should have been somebody else. So that's been an interesting little development. But sorry, as you were, James.
No, it's all right. My earphone just decided to put you to the speaker here rather than... Hang on. I'm doing this. I'm not doing a cut here. We've had enough cuts here. Speak. Hello. There we go. Wonderful. In sort of like the attacking positions, they've played a 4-2-3-1 here, by the way. So Collins for Bristol Rovers, a player I want to see us sign. I want this player at Wednesday. He won player of the season as well.
I'm giggling
Why?
because this is my preferred formation on Football Manager with a Gegenpress. Just to bring up the fact that I play for... Anyway, sorry, yes. You want to sign Collins for Wednesday. I think that'd be a good
So's
idea.
mine. It's mine as well.
Nice!
My latest playthrough. Can I just say my latest playthrough of Football Manager, by the way? I finished 3rd in League One with this team.
Oh, wow.
88 points. I actually
with
did
no
worse
signings,
than Darren
like,
Moore.
Just...
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I didn't do as well this time, but I did change the formation around, but I went up via the playoffs.
Oh, nice.
Clark Harris is another one of the ones in that position for Peterborough, so Peterborough player makes it in. Ipswich have also got Chaplin in there, and we've got Windass up top. Now, Derby fans were screaming it should have been McGoldrick, and I scream back and say no.
No, I agree.
Because, yes, he scored the goal. David Littringham Wallace scored more goals, right? But if you look at a player that's as influential to a team like Windass, you've taken him out, and we've
had a stinker.
quite woeful in terms of form.
Exactly.
In terms of a reliance of a player. And I will also say he deserves that position because he's not just a striker. He's played, in the cam role. He's played in different positions.
Yeah.
He's played on the wing. His versatility, I don't think people see that when they look on paper. And McGoldrick's always been played up front, hasn't he?
Exactly.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a case of Windass has scored goals and been influential to the team from different positions. And that, for me, makes sense why he's in there. It's nice to see two of our players in there this time. I think we only had Bannon in last season. So I also feel like it wasn't this later last time. Or not? No, maybe not.
I'm pretty sure. I think this was like after the final game of the season last year.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but I do feel like it was, because it should mean we're going to get another Bannon Team of the Season card in FIFA.
And a Windass one.
Potentially even. Not necessarily, because what they do is they do EFL Team of the Season on FIFA. Course. So they cherry pick players. The Windass Team of the Season would be... I actually think we might get him, though, because he's already got an inform in this game.
Yeah.
So if we get a Windass Team of the Season, his links are fantastic because he is pacey.
Yeah. And you might argue that they might go for the Bannon one because Bannon's got a real scanned-in face, because obviously when Villa went up, he was with them ages ago, and that's when he got his appearance scanned. So that may be why they choose him rather than also Windass, but, who knows how
it'd be great to have both.
Quite frankly.
Fantastic to have both.
It'd be great.
But yes, congratulations to the two of them. They were speaking at the event actually about just got to see it over the line now. So we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about players returning, because Windass could be one of those.
Yes.
Michael Uwekwe is back. He got some time with the under-23s. He also got about 20 minutes at Exeter. Moore hopes to see no reaction from that. He doesn't want to see any sort of repercussions of him playing. So we could get him back starting basically for our crucial final two games and potential playoffs. So do you think that'll be a massive boost for us? Because personally, I think when you talk about, this is why I was setting it up right. I wasn't being Michael Owen for no reason. When we talk about the fundamentals of the game, Michael Uwekwe knows how to do them. You watch them and you feel slightly more calm when he is in that defensive line.
Absolutely.
So him in there, his experience, and the fact I just trust him a lot more in terms of keeping us a bit more defensively sound. So that is actually massive for us if we can get him back starting. But talk me through your thoughts.
I mean, look how phenomenal we were when we had him and Ben Hennigan as the partnership at centre-back at the start of the season. It was absolutely solid. It was watertight, that defence was, with them two there. And it's almost been a ragtag operation to try and remotely recover that same sort of form since we lost him. And we've just not found it. And I'm going to name a name, but Iorfa has really not been off the boil. He's really not fulfilled that role very well at all. And I'm sorry to be so direct with that and so critical.
I'd like to just counterpoint without fully cutting you off, but I think he's blowing hot and cold depending on the game. Yeah. That's the problem, and I think it's not ideal, obviously, because of the situation we're in, but it's amplified because we need to be elite at the minute.
Yes.
And that's the thing. There's no margin for error. And some games he plays quite well, or goes under the radar. But sometimes he has a bit of a stinker, and we can't afford that. So he's going to come under heavier criticism right now. And I do still think there's a good player in there, but it's when you've got a player that's not got the consistency. That's what we're finding with Iorfa at the minute.
I almost, and I could be totally wrong with this, right? But it almost sort of feels like when there's a lot of pressure on him and to not make errors, etc. That's ironically when he does make the errors. When he's playing without that pressure on him, it almost feels like he plays a lot better and a lot more solidly. But when in situations like the last few games, knowing there's not really anybody else, I mean, obviously we had Uwekwe on the bench, but before Uwekwe was back on the bench, when they knew they had nobody else and that was it was them. Nobody else could come on really and fulfill that role. That's when he was.
I still think he looked best as
under pressure, but
I got some people disagreeing with this at the time, but I remember in the Championship when he started sitting in front of the defence, as a defensive midfielder, I still feel he looked best in that position. We don't really. Our midfield's really good, okay, but with Byers out in games we need to be a little bit more defensive minded, but with a player that has got the legs. To bring the ball out of the defence and go through that. I wouldn't have minded to see him sitting in front of that defence a little bit more. I think it was... And he's also... Obviously, he originally trained as a right-back. So you've got options there for him. I don't think he needs to be a centre-back. Maybe we've got a player in there. We just need to have room and try him in different positions and see what works out, because I don't think you need consistent centre backs, and he's not that at the minute.
Yeah.
That's the be all and end all of it, really. And Awekwe coming back could be the difference between a solid defence going into the playoffs, or we're going to have him if we have him for these last few games.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to Ben Hennigan coming back, whether that's this season or whether it's for the next season, because he looked like a real Mr. Dependable kind of figure. But
hopefully he can.
Back,
you never know what they're going to be like after long-term injuries. So hopefully he can come back.
I mean,
strong.
Iorfa, he's the same. He was phenomenal before he had that long-term injury, and then he gets the long-term injury from last season, and he was out most of last season, wasn't he? And then he's come back for this season, and he's been a bit shaky.
It's also worth mentioning his contract's up this summer.
Yeah.
Iorfa's. He had a 2-year deal in 2021, didn't he? So
yes, yeah.
His is up in 2020 this summer. It'll be interesting to see what we decide to do there. You feel like, given his age and you don't really want to let a player like that go on a free, because you feel like you could probably get some money for him. But I think, depending on where we end up, he possibly will go on a free.
Yeah.
Windass, though, could be back for the weekend.
He could.
He's been back out on the grass. He spoke about trying to get back in the squad at the awards. That they're still aiming for automatics. It was an interesting thing that he said. Obviously, they're looking up, but if it happens for the playoffs, they'll have to be prepared for it, and they're confident going into the playoffs. Basically, they've got that mentality. So they have clearly picked up on the fact that we feel like there's not a mentality there, because he mentioned that.
Yeah.
They've got the mentality to go into the playoffs. I bloody hope he's right.
I did love reading roughly what he said, because he's basically sort of said, when he won that, the place in the team of the season and everything, and you see the picture of them, of him and Bannon sat there with their awards in front of him and stuff. But in his acceptance speech, he basically said, "I'm honoured to be given this, but I don't really care. All I care about is promotion, and that's it. I want us promoted." He didn't even care that he got the award. That's more important to him, and I just think that speaks volumes of the man he is and why I love him so much. But yeah, I'm glad that we've got him.
Do you worry that there was that sort of wasn't there sort of like an Argentinian stadium or something on his Instagram? Is that real or was that fake? Or did you see something like that?
I mean, look, he went to Spain. I know he went to Spain and he likes it in Spain, but he went to Spain to see the specialist. The specialist that they sent him to
I just remember,
was based
I didn't really
in
look
Spain.
into it because I'm not getting into the negativity now.
And all of that, yeah.
I saw people going, is this Argentina, that sort of thing, and I didn't even know what ground it was, to be honest. I just kind of saw somebody mention it. Somebody wrote in about it, but if we need to talk about that, we'll talk about that in a future episode. I don't really know if it's a thing. I didn't really want to bring it up when we're in a run for it now, because it's negativity we don't want, really.
Exactly.
But it also could be nothing. As I say, we don't really speak on things unless we've fully looked into them, and as you can hear, I'm being quite vague on that one specifically.
Yeah,
so
of course,
I think it's important to utilise him in the right way. And Andy writes in on sort of the same wavelengths of, would you play Windass if he's fit, or Cotton Woolen for the playoffs, and just give him half an hour here or there in preparation?
Play him. Sod the cotton wool treatment, put him back in. Now is not the time for cotton wooling, giving anybody the cotton wool treatment. Now is pretty much, to give it a phrase, drill sergeant time. You can't be messing. I was about to swear there, I'm sorry, but it's not the time for mucking about and giving people the cotton wool treatment. This is the business end now. You play with a bit of pain if you've got a little bit of an ankle knock or something here and there. You don't cotton wool anybody. It's body line time. It's time to put your blood into this. It doesn't matter. You can rest up when it's done. When the job is done, then you can rest. Now is not the time, in my opinion, to be cotton wooling anybody for the playoffs. Because if we have the sort of resting on our laurels, yes, we're in the playoffs, we won't do well in the playoffs. They won't want it enough. Because if we narrowly miss out on automatics, then that'll put a bit between the teeth for the playoffs. It'll make them even more determined. Last season, I think part of the problem was we were just aiming for the playoffs, and then they sort of got there in the end and were like, oh, okay, great. Mission accomplished. They didn't have that chip on the shoulder to say, no, we've been narrowly, thwarted in our attempt to get the automatics. This is now the reason Plymouth have done so well this season. They had a chip on the shoulder from narrowly missing out last year, and that's why they've done so well this season. And that's what I think.
MK Dons went the other way, though.
Oh, yeah.
So it can go both ways.
That's because they lost all the key players, though. That's the problem in the summer.
Yeah, but they finished. It was quite demoralising for them because they finished shy of automatics, and then they bottled the playoffs. So it can go both ways. Counter argument to that, though, playing devil's advocate. If Tuesday night Ipswich and Plymouth both win, do you treat the approach of Windass slightly differently?
Maybe not, because I think that our biggest problem... You
still go to the wire.
I'd still think we need to just play to the wire. We need to keep it in mind that we're playing it to the wire, not resigning ourselves to the playoffs. And as well, with what we've literally been saying earlier about the team not being able to finish its sodding dinner for the most part in the last few weeks, Windass being back on the pitch gives the other attackers a bit of an incentive, but it also, Lee Gregory's particularly, is looking absolutely knackered by the time it gets to like 60 minutes or so. He's looking absolutely knackered, and that's why at Forest Green, for example, that's why he stopped performing as well from that minute onwards, because he was absolutely knackered, but we had nobody else to come on. So if we rest, say, Gregory for Windass, even though he's been playing well, arguably, that might freshen things up a little bit. It might give the players a bit of a respite, if you will, and we won't be
depending on his situation. Here's what I think we should do. Yeah. When we go into
sorry that
the
I'm so staunchly
fixture,
against your point, by the way, Tex. Of cotton wool.
Which it was Andy's
the cotton
point.
wool thing. Oh well, Andy's point. You know what I mean. Sorry that I'm so staunchly against it, but
yeah, no, and it's a great. The reason I brought it in is because it's a great devil's advocate. So you can see it from both aspects, and I guess I'm more of the mind that depending on Tuesday's results, even if I'll tell you what, sack that off. Sack Tuesday's results off.
Yeah.
Depending on his fitness, I'd give him a half against Shrewsbury, and I'd start him at Derby if he's fit enough to do that. If Shrewsbury actually we start well, which we don't usually, so Windass coming on in the second half could be a massive thing for us. If we start well and we go a couple of goals up, you potentially don't need to risk him against Shrewsbury. Maybe give him 10 minutes, give him 20 minutes. And then really give him a scrappy game like Derby, which is going to be massive because they're going to be going for playoffs.
Yeah.
So you bring him into that and they've got that high intensity. And we could still be on for automatics there, but it's also a great test bed for the playoffs and getting him up to speed there. I don't think you're completely wrapping him cotton wool, but I think you're clever about how you do it because as you've just said, Jack, players are looking knackered. We don't want to be without Josh Windass for the playoffs. Because he's sort of one of those players that's a decider, right? Yeah. So if he picks up something that's going to keep him out for a few weeks, he misses the playoffs. So we just see how we can get him going. Or we do the old football manager. He can take an injection and get through the next game, but then be out for 6 months. Take one for the team, Josh.
You do realize, by the way, a few years ago, you do realize like Adtiniu was playing about half a season. You know it was the season it was the Stuart Gray managed season, the one just before Chansiri took over. Adtiniu for the second half of like the last third of that season was playing every single week with an injection into his ankle. Like
a lot of players do. A lot of players are in a situation where they do. We do that.
And he was just like, no, I'm finishing the season. You're going to inject me each week and stuff. But yeah, that's...
Speaking of injuries, though, as well, Jack, Jaden Brown might be injured. We don't know the extent of this yet. We might by the time the podcast's out. But Moore was talking to Yorkshire Live and he said, and quote, we'll check on Jaden whether he's got cramp or a strain. We don't know, so we'll have to check on it. I thought he battled well. We lost Akin and I wanted to keep him out on that left side to give us balance. I thought he did okay. He battled, but I have to say, well, as I say, we'll have to check on him for Shrewsbury. End quote. So, again, Wednesday players.
But yeah.
Injuries. It's that time of the season. A lot of players are tight. But Jaden Brown's not played a load this season. I don't think it's a time to lose a player like that because even if he's on the bench, our bench has been too weak this season. The second half of the season. And you talk about squad depth and that being a problem, but it's been concerning me looking at that bench sometimes.
You see, it's annoying. It's so annoying because this is clearly a sports science issue. There's so many players that have been out with either cramps, strains, or whatever, and that is a sports science issue. That's their diet, that's their exercise routine, all of that stuff that's handled by the sports science sector. That's why there's these injuries now, because it's all happening in games, for example. So we don't have the training ground excuse to keep saying it's all happening on the training ground. Sort that out. This is a sports science issue, so that's something we need to look at in the summer. I know there's obviously that Rob Lee from Doncaster that got brought in, but clearly it's either he's doing too much on his own, or we need to have a look at improving the sports science sector, because there's so many injuries this season that have been all this sort of injury. And that's all down to the sports science side of the backroom part of the club.
Is it the medicals? Is it the players coming in? Or is it the setup we've got? There's loads of questions to be asked. Or is it just the fact that there's some sort of voodoo on Wednesday at the minute? And there has been for a while. Because injuries have not been something that, even though different managers have come in and different...
Yeah.
Maybe it's a case of players like Barry Bannon manage themselves and they don't get injured.
Because I will, this is not trying to say anything or make any sort of point, but this didn't happen when we had Tony Strudwick as the head of sports science. This didn't happen.
We went from having a lot of injuries under Carlos to that period with Tony Strudwick where it was quite... you are right, in fairness there.
So it's an interesting thing that maybe needs to be looked at or something in the summer. But yeah, I'm not trying to make any sort of jibes. Something that might get addressed
in the summer, Jack, by the way. Your lag is doing my nutting today because you keep lagging over me. Whenever I think you've stopped talking, you've not stopped talking. If that's audible in the podcast, I do apologise. I'll make sure that's fixed next time. It's Jack and myself on. Jack and Jake have both got terrible internet, so they're used to sort of like talking between each other, like between two tins. But We'll figure out a way of low latency if that is a problem. To be fair, though, I remember this happening last time I was on with you, and you couldn't really notice in the podcast, but now you will have picked it apart and I've said it, so there we go. Nice. Because I keep trying to do segues and you're still talking when it sounds like you've stopped. It's not your fault, I don't think. Either that
it's
or
an internet thing, I think.
You just want to talk all the time, which is very on brand for you, actually, so maybe. I want to talk a little bit about the more negativity that I keep seeing. And I wanted to talk about this last week, but obviously we didn't do a podcast last week. You know what I was seeing after the dip? And I genuinely saw this and I was like, are you for real? Sack Darren Moore and bring Gary Megson in to see us up.
Like,
people genuinely thinking that's a thing we should do. Because he's a Wednesdayite.
This is a nostalgia thing. This isn't a sensible decision. This is
all
nostalgia
it's not a sensible decision,
based.
Jack? Because I decided that annoyed me, right? Because I was looking for viable alternatives to Darren Moore at this point. It makes no sense, right? And I thought, right, let's actually have a look into what that happened that season. Megson, that season, when he was sacked, after 33 games, we were third on 60 points. You want to know, right? Third on 60 points.
Right.
At the same point this season, after 33 points, Wednesday were top of the league on 74 points. 14 points more after the same amount of... I know leagues differ, but we're talking about bringing in a manager who is a Wednesdayite and might be able to be a man motivator and do all of that. But it's not even logical. When Dave Jones came in and Wednesday got promoted in second, we finished on 93 points. We've got 2 games left, and we're on 90 points. If we win one of them, we've equaled the season we had when we went up last time. And actually, we've lost less. Because that season, we lost 9 games. This season, we've lost 6 so far. We've obviously had a lot of draws to keep that unbeaten run going. We won 28 games that season. If we win the next 2, we've equaled the win record, and we've actually finished with 3 more points. That's a big if, right? But the point I've got there is, yes, I think some of the performances were unacceptable. I don't necessarily think that's Darren Moore. I do sometimes question, like, does he have an idea of who he wants in depth to be able to change a game sometimes? I do think squad depth's an issue, but I look at the bench and don't know how I'd change it. But it's sort of like, do you blame Chansiri for not allowing the players there? Maybe is there something there? Do you blame the manager for not having those players there? It's a very much a case of, is it an ownership, is it a management thing there? Because he talks about not wanting to bring in the right kind of players, the wrong kind of players, but then we only bring Flint in, and then we end up with a bad squad depth issue. So there is questions there. However, I don't see why anything but nostalgia and lunacy would be bring Gary Megson in after he's not managed for all this time for a few games to see if we can gamble. When if you think about the players who are behind Darren Moore, they're gonna be like, are you serious? You're sacking a manager who, with this little to go, it would all just, in my opinion, it would all just collapse, and it doesn't make sense given the comparison between the two managers just on paper there.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Gary Megson said in an interview with Alan Biggs this week that he's backing Darren Moore and he thinks he's doing a great job. And he actually thinks he's had a harder job recently with Wednesday because they don't seem to have the money anymore. And he's done it with all without much money.
Yeah, yeah.
And I will have a bigger question, depending on the way the season goes, about Darren Moore's future and our opinions on it and your opinions on it. And obviously we want to discuss that. But I just think it's a little bit of lunacy. We're on 90 points. We're 3 points off where we were when we got promoted last time.
We're
with 2 games to go.
30 sodding points better off than when Megson was sacked. 30 points!
No, we were...
Well,
yeah,
sorry,
but
Megson was sacked when we were on
that,
60 points.
Yeah, that's fair, but that we obviously played then different
course.
games after that.
Yeah.
The reason we don't even need to say that is because he was 14 points more advanced at the same point, which is why I specifically picked that 33 games. After 33 games, when Darren Moore's record this season would have been 14 points ahead.
Yeah.
So...
But again, he's 3 points behind Dave Jones's bloody final total when we went up second. It's been a mad league this year, and as well to the point of sacking. Sorry, I'm very passionate about this, but
yeah, it's all right.
If Darren Moore is sacked right now, we lose his entire coaching staff, and then we've got Neil Thompson and Nicky Weaver to coach us through what remains of the season.
Yeah, which is why people were saying bring Megson in, but I think it's just a stupid thing to say when he's not managed for that much. It's irresponsible, that sort of talk.
Yes, and it's not even being made on a look who's either out of work or whatever, or who would want the job that's doing a good job wherever they've recently been. It's all a nostalgia thing. Because how nice wouldn't it be if Wednesday fan Gary Megson takes us up again?
Yep.
That's literally all it is. Gary Megson would do no differently to Darren Moore, in my opinion.
The only sort of manager I could see coming in and doing something like and actually managing to pull it off, and not even in 2 games now, it would have had to happen about 5 games ago, is someone like Steve Bruce. And
yes.
We've been there.
Yep.
Don't want that again. But yeah, I just think we need to chill out a little bit on the Darren Moore front and realise that if we finish on 96 points and don't go up,
that's a joke.
We've actually we've bested our promotion season.
Yes. It's just
Ipswich and Plymouth have been unreal.
Yeah, exactly. It's because they've had very hungry managers, but they've basically, Kieran McKenna, hats off to him for the job he's done at Ipswich, because he's caused that massive resurgence of Ipswich this season and last season even, and it's just. I honestly think if you want to say that Darren Moore has made one mistake this year, the biggest one is that he's decided to have an 18-man squad rather than a 24 or 25, whichever the limit is. We needed a 24, basically the maximum amount of registered players in the first team this season. That's what we needed, and that's probably
and then potentially you
what's let us down.
say, does it go against his sort of he wants to always be able to give players opportunities and things like that? I honestly think we just needed. I don't understand why Wilkes didn't play more earlier on, because we needed... Wilkes was the signing that we made that was different to our other sort of attacking options.
But I think
another mistake, we should have kept Myton as well. We should have kept Myton, because Myton would have been important at this sort of time.
Yeah.
So...
the whole Wilkes thing, he didn't play for an entire season for Hull last year.
That. Yep.
And he didn't have a pre-season. He was left in limbo over the pre-season period. So he had to catch up. He was playing catch up for all that time, and he should have been. It's just the whole playing silly buggers.
We could have really done with Wilkes now as well, because Wilkes was starting to really come into his. It's just so annoying Wednesday's injury situation. But let's just chill out on the Darren Moore front. Right? It's never going to stop. It's never going to stop. But just try and be reasonable at least, guys. Come on. Right, community topics. Adam SWFC writes into the Discord and goes. Again, he's just said if Moore was to get the sack at the end of the season, what replacements could be realistic as a wild card? I'd go for Daniel Stendhal, that ex-Barnsley gaffer that played some good stuff and knows how to get out of the league. I'm more in, by the way. It's just a topic for discussion. So we're talking end of the season there. It's something that we'll probably discuss a little bit more at the end of the season, but it is one of those things like you'd need somebody who wanted a big project. And if you were bringing in a manager, for me, if you were bringing in you need a proven manager now.
Yeah.
I don't think you go from Darren Moore with how well we have played at certain points this season. I don't think you go for a gamble. You go for a proven manager or nothing. Or you keep him, in my opinion.
It's controversial. We need if Darren Moore was to get sacked, etc., we would need somebody along the lines of Warnock, ironically. You know, someone that's not afraid to kick 7 hells out of players when they've not done well or whatever. We need someone to really put a rocket up their backsides.
Look, he's not going to get sacked.
Someone that's going to command respect. He's not.
Let's stop. I'm annoying myself that I've even brought this topic in. It's not you. It's not you, Adam. But he's either going to get us up automatic or we're going to win the playoffs and he's going to be the manager and it's going to annoy people. And if not, we will deal with it when we deal with it because it's just annoying at the minute. Andy wrote in and went, does it really matter if we finish 3rd or 4th? Either way, we avoid 2 legs against Barnsley and play one of Bolton, Derby or Peterborough. The only way it could really matter, I think, is if we might keep more of our own crowd on side. I think it's nice to have the second leg at Hillsborough. But then again, that didn't really work against Sunderland. I'd want to finish 3rd because then you keep the momentum going, and especially if you're so close. I want to finish 2nd, obviously, or 1st. But if you're going to finish 3rd, you want to... Finishing 3rd gives you, as you were saying earlier, that fight to try and go for it. Because you realise that you feel unjust.
I hate that we're talking about playoffs already. Jake's resigned himself to that we're finishing in the playoffs, by the way. He's convinced that it's playoff time and we're not going up automatically. I was
until we managed to get 2 scrappy wins on the back, because that's why we're playing not very good football at the minute, but we're managing to get the wins, and that can be a big thing in the last few games. So last 2 games now.
Yeah, I'd say we finish 3rd. It's like I said earlier, we need to finish 3rd. If we're going to finish in the playoff places, we're finishing 3rd, and anything less is just.
Right. Here's the thing, though, as well. For us to not finish 3rd, it means we've fallen off even further, which means we're going in really bad form into the playoffs, and you don't want that either. So, unless you throw dummy tactics out there to think the playoff teams you're going to play a certain way, and then you play a different way. But Sheffield Wednesday's next match is a big one. It's against Shrewsbury Town, who are 13th in League One. So they've gotten really nothing to play for at the minute, which can be dangerous at this time of the season. Or, they can coast and we can batter them, but I wouldn't say that at the minute. The last match was a loss at home against Bolton Wanderers. How do you feel about this one?
See, you say that, Dex, right? That it should be, they've got nothing to play for. Neither did Exeter, and they almost beat us.
No, that's why I'm saying it doesn't work out like that,
they had seven of their starters out, and are right back up front, and they were still looking so dominant in that first half. And it's the frustrating thing that literally it doesn't matter if they've got nothing to play for. Every team deserves to be played against with respect, and we need to not switch off. Half the problem is...
All I'm going to say is Shea Dunkley.
Yes.
Please
he's still
score an own goal.
He's still a bit of a Wednesday fan. He posts on his Instagram story all the time.
There's some people on Twitter up. Solid lad, that lad. Score an own goal, please. Please.
He was hyping up that that unbeaten run post that we did on Instagram.
Yeah.
Shea Dunkley's not even playing for us anymore, but he shared it and put it on his story, and he was all proper up for it and stuff. And
yeah. I tell you what, if you're not going to score an own goal, just sort of
do a Dominic Iorfa against Exeter.
Happen to be looking the other way when Barry Bannon's deciding to run right past you. Okay? For a tap-in.
Exactly.
Please. I think we'll do it. But I also think that what I'm about to talk about is going to be the big thing, because Ipswich are playing Barnsley and Plymouth are playing Bristol Rovers. Them two fixtures will make our fixture either a lot more important or seem like promotion automatically is further away, because if they win both of those, we need something to really, really kick off in those fixtures.
But with how Bristol Rovers played against us, I don't think that Plymouth should be thinking it's a walk in the park there, because they played very, very well against us. And I think there could be an upset there, potentially. But I also
Ipswich have then got Exeter as well at the weekend. So Exeter played well against us. If we could do with a few more of those against them. Ipswich are looking pretty unstoppable, but if they can have a blip against Barnsley, it might knock their confidence slightly.
Yeah.
And that's what we could really capitalise on. That'd be amazing. Honestly, if Barnsley could do us that favour, please. And then Plymouth also played Burton at the weekend. So Burton turned us over, but I see them winning all those 4 fixtures. That's the problem. Both teams, I see them winning both of their fixtures.
I'm more inclined towards Ipswich, just because they've been on this insane run of form. But then form isn't everything, because we were on a 23 unbeaten run, and look at us now.
And we played Barnsley, and it fell off.
I'm
saying, actually, is Barnsley were the end to our run.
Yes, exactly. So that's why I'm saying it's more. I don't know. It's just we're just going to have to watch on Tuesday and just accept whatever happens. I'm trying to go into it with no expectations and no hopes and no anything. Just washing it all from my mind and not
Go to the youtube.com/dexteritybox. Go to @TalkingWed on Twitter. There will be coverage on those platforms.
Yes.
For these fixtures, because there's got to be.
Yeah.
If you're just watching the podcast on when it goes live on the Tuesday, stick around, because
there's
some big fixtures that don't involve Wednesday but are pivotal for Wednesday.
But ironically, involve Wednesday because it's the decider for where we finish, arguably. And I don't like that we've thrown away those chances of getting those 3 points in each of our friggin' games in hand. That's come back to bite us in the backside now, as we knew it would.
We can't do anything. The thing is, we're at this position where we can't do anything about that. We just have to play what's in front of us, and we've put ourselves in that situation, but it's not completely lost yet. Mm-hmm. But that's all I've got for this week's episode of Talking Wednesday. Jack, anything to add?
I mean, I just hate that we're going to be laughed at. Like, if we bottle this now and we're staying in League One for another year, I just hate that we're going to be the sort of laughingstock poster boys for the next sort of summer period and stuff. I hate it. I hate it so much.
I don't think I care about that so much, other than the fact that I think we are financially screwed if we don't go up. As in,
I wonder if
it's bad.
I just wonder if there might be a takeover looming. If it's just a question to finish on and to ponder. But what if Mr. Chancery hasn't been giving Darren Moore the funds the last couple of years to do what Ipswich have done, for example, because he's thinking of selling the club? What if that's something going on?
What if it's part
I don't know
of
for certain.
or maybe not, because obviously we had financial fair play to recover from originally, but maybe it developed into something like that. I don't know, because then you see him out there waving the Wednesday flag. So, or is he pivoting it on promotion? He can still love the club.
He can still love us to pieces, but he might also want to move on and just be a fan. Who knows? I don't,
I've said this all along. If that does happen, you have got some sort of responsibility to make sure that Wednesday end up at least in the position that they were when you took them over.
Yes.
Because that's what good owners of football clubs do, even if it doesn't work out for them. They make sure they don't leave them worse off than they found them. And it's rare that it happens, but I feel like that's a responsibility of a good owner, personally.
Yes.
But yes, thank you very much for watching this week's episode of the Talking Wednesday podcast. Jack's going to go and buy a Mac, and we will see you in the next episode of Talking Wednesday.
Thank you very much.